Hello and welcome back to the Eyes on the NFL podcast. We are back after, 2-3 week hiatus for week 7 of the NFL season. It's been a good season so far. We apologize for not being with you for all of it, but we're here when you need us most. Vikings bye week. Joe, how you feeling?
I feel great. We have a weekend with less stress. Because as fun as this season's been, there's still the old Vikings heart attacks on Sundays. So I'm just going to relax, enjoy, and be a neutral observer of football this weekend.
The Vikings go into the bye week 5-1 after some little too close for comfort games against the Saints, the Bears, the Lions, the Dolphins, and whatnot. But hey, 5-1's 5-1. I'd much rather be 5-1 than 1-5.
That's true. That's football. You want to win and you don't want to lose.
Yeah, that usually is how it works. But if I can get the scroll up before we get going, let's do the usual. Subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications. Follow us on Twitter at EvoKnowsAll31 and at RealJoeSpinoza, along with our channel's Twitter account at EyesOnTheNFL for all the best clips. We're going to try and stay more consistent. Hopefully this isn't just a one-off episode, but without further ado, would you like to get into it?
Yes, sir.
So we're going to change up the format a little bit instead of going through every single game, which got boring and redundant. First, we're going to try and make this a more Viking-centric podcast, I guess, because, we're Vikings fans, or Vikings fan and Kirk fan, Viking fan by association, I guess. So we're going to do 20-30 minute segment on the Vikings and then go over the best games of the week.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right. Vikings talk then. 5-1 to the bye, coming off 24-17 win over the Dolphins.
16.
They
missed the 2-point conversion.
Their next opponent being the Arizona Cardinals. Anything that jumps off the screen about the Vikings so far this season that you want to address?
I feel like everyone kind of knows what the story's been. I've been tweeting about it. We've been talking about it, in various spaces, all this stuff. If you just look at the context around the league, scoring margin is down to one of its lowest ever. Passing efficiency is at its lowest in a very long time. Passing yards per attempt is at its lowest in a very long time. And considering all of that, the Vikings are 5-1. They haven't had a particularly gauntlet level schedule, but it hasn't been a joke. The Packers don't look great, but winning the way they did week 1, obviously, we know that was amazing. Philly's an insanely tough team. You got your ass kicked. None other than that, you played one pride. New Orleans still has talent. Their offense was a little bit wounded, but their defense still came to play. Going to London's always tough. Chicago, you were absolutely destroying them, and you let them back in, but I'm not too worried about that. You slammed the door shut when you had to. And Miami, another really tough place to play. There were some injuries, but it's still a talented team. You still had those stud wide receivers on the other end. So I think you're in a great spot.
With the Miami game, you see a lot of people talking about how it was too close. That game was never close after the second quarter. The first quarter was, it felt like you were going to lose. It felt like it was going to be one of those games. Offense came out lethargic. Defense was doing their thing, but it was still, they were getting some breaks from the refs and this and that. And, Skylar Thompson gets injured. So it just looked like it was going to be one of those games. But then the offense and the defense both woke up and just did their thing. So it was never really close once we got into rhythm. So I'm not really worried about last game.
Well, what I'll say is, if I actually had to go to what this team reminds me of and what it feels like, is it feels like the Patriots. Because people always remember the Super Bowls and they would win their division every year. But a lot of their games were like this. And a lot of it was, you just had a feeling that they were going to pull it out. It's kind of sloppy, especially going to Miami. Patriots would usually lose, actually. But in general, you'd have these games against the Jets and Chicago looked like one of the traditional blowouts. But in the end, you always kind of came away with it. And there were years where the Patriots defense was actually very similar to this Vikings defense, where they bend but don't break. And you'd see back in the early 2010s, Patriots defense would be bottom 5 in yards allowed, but top 10 to 12 in points allowed. And it just is very reminiscent. And I think that, contrary to popular belief, this is a very sustainable way of playing, considering I think the offense is just going to keep getting better. I don't know how often a quarterback plays super well in Miami during the day at this time of year. So other than that, I think the offense has been pretty good.
It is kind of bittersweet because the team like at times looks really good and at times looks pretty bad. But I guess looking on the bright side of things as opposed to being pessimistic like a lot of people are, we're 5-1 and we haven't, I don't think, even seen close to what this offense can do. Got to give flowers to the defense because they've really been holding their own. It might just be because these offenses really aren't that good, but still, they're doing their job. I'm not going to complain because they are doing their job. Especially in the fourth quarter, the team is allowing less than a field goal in the fourth quarter. Actually, that might have changed after the touchdown that was given up this fourth quarter, but still.
Yeah, the defense, it still scares the crap out of me. I don't trust it, I guess. And you got to think the past 2 weeks, the game sealing plays, they're not traditional turnovers of either an interception because you have ball hawks or a forced fumble on like a strip sack or on against a running back. Like, you're just talking about wide receivers getting their lunch taken from them, which
the Jalen Waddle one was extremely fraudulent.
yeah.
But I don't know how you could, like, Amir definitely could have held onto the ball better, but Cam literally ripped it from him. I don't know how you can take that away. Like,
but
that's not a fluke. He literally took the ball out of his hands.
But that's ISM. And I don't know how many ISMs, no offense to him, that you're going to face the rest of the way.
I guess. I'm not going to complain because the defense is doing their job. The Jalen Waddle one was extremely lucky. It looked like they were going to drive and start to come back. But, you take what you can get, and you're 5-1 going into the bye. I don't have the graphic here, but coming up after the bye, it goes, correct me if I'm wrong, Arizona, Washington, the Bills, Cowboys, Patriots. Those first two seem like ones that you can start to warm up to get into that like really important 3-game stretch. 2 of those games are at home. 1 of those games in Buffalo. The Cardinals game, I think it's really important to get out and get that win right there. It's kind of an insurance win because right now I'm going to predict 2 losses in that 3-game Patriots, Cowboys, Bills stretch. So to get that insurance win in Arizona, is it in Arizona?
No, it's in Minnesota.
Okay, so it's in Minnesota. And then Washington, I'm not worried about. People are saying that could be a trap game, but Washington doesn't seem like a trap team. So I'm not worried at all for that game. But that Bills, Cowboys, Patriots stretch is going to be very crucial. And we're going to find out what kind of team this team is. Because 6 weeks into the season, I mean, we're 5-1, but the team hasn't proved much in terms of being a contender. That stretch, if they can come out of there with, they don't even have to be convincing wins, but 2 wins and a close loss, that's going to show the league that this is a serious team.
Yeah, if you just honestly, I just kind of put it at, it when you see it. It's hard to say with scores and backdoor covers and all these things. But in general, I'll say if you're hanging with Buffalo, if it's a 1-score game in the fourth quarter and like you have the ball and like a chance at different points to like, you're hanging tight. Long story short, with Buffalo, that's a win. I know they say no moral victories, but that's a moral victory. Sorry. I think Arizona's
especially in Buffalo when it's like, I think that's going to be the first game in Buffalo where it's really cold. Like it's actually like a winter game.
Yeah. And that's why I think the Arizona game is so important because, again, you don't want to overlook any team in the NFL. But other than like maybe the Bears and the Panthers, there really is no team that's like more worthy of overlooking than the Commies. So you win against Arizona, and then hopefully you take care of business. And I think the fact I don't believe in trap games, but I think the fact that this is Kirk, I believe, going to Washington for the first time. I don't think he's been back to Washington and played. Um, but Kirk going to Washington, it's going to keep him super locked in, and he's going to want to show them you guys done goofed after rolling through all the garbage quarterbacks over the past few years. So if you come out of that 7-1, that kind of gives you a buffer to drop 2 of your next 3 against tough opponents and short weeks and all that stuff and traveling. And then you're kind of ready to roll, I guess.
Yeah. We have breaking news out of New York. This comes from
Please be
Ian Rapp.
serious. Oh.
This is serious. This is coming from Ian Rappaport himself. Jets wide receiver Elijah Moore, frustrated with his role and usage, has asked for a trade. The team has no plans at all to trade him, though. The former second rounder was targeted once in the win over the Packers, but the play was negated by a penalty. And I guess we talked about having this conversation. I guess that leads us into our next thing. We're getting kind of close to trade season, mid-season trades. There's some names surrounding the Vikings, at least on Vikings Twitter. Let's talk about potential deals that could get done. Let's, I guess, start with this Elijah Moore trade. I think it's important to note that Ian Rappaport said the Jets have no plans to trade him. But say those plans change. Are you interested in getting Elijah Moore? Are you interested, or do you even think there's a chance?
No.
No.
Because you have to think he's in his second year. He was a former second rounder, so he has some pedigree to him. I don't think that he has first round, second round, third rounder. He's at a fourth rounder deficit. I'm pretty sure he's going to be at deficits with other picks. I know he's at a fifth round deficit this year or seventh. He also dealt away. He's at a pick deficit, the most notably in the fourth round, but you're kind of behind the 8 ball with the rest of your day 3 picks. I don't think that he's going to move any of his day 1 or day 2 picks in this upcoming draft. I don't see him doing that. I think Elijah Moore's a good player, but you have to consider if he's not feeling great about being the number 2 in New York, and he's like borderline number 1. Like he's had some really big weeks. Garrett Wilson's come along, but he's not emerged as a clear-cut number 1. So if he's not comfortable in being that co-1A, 1B with Garrett Wilson, he's obviously not going to be the number 1 here. Given Kirk's connection with Thielen and KJ, even if he might be the second most talented receiver in the room, he's probably not going to be getting the targets he would like and have the role he would like this season at all. Or if he does, it wouldn't be till deep into the year. So I don't really think he's an option. And if you're requesting out of New York on a team that's playing well, it's not like they're playing poorly, not like they don't have a good group to build with. Just sounds like he's kind of a diva and wants the ball, which I don't think would play here.
Okay, so I mean, diva. I mean, second year I don't know what to think. I would love him, but again, especially since they took him with their second round pick last year, and he's a young, talented receiver. They're probably asking for a 4th or a 3rd round pick.
Second, they're going to be asking for a second, man.
Second,
at least.
That's not something I want to give up, especially since you said it. We're behind the 8 ball on our late round picks. So lose another one of those for a guy who is he really going to have an impact on this offense? And I'm basically repeating everything you said, but it's true. He's not going to have an impact on this offense, so why trade for him? Especially since he's upset he's not having an impact on a Jets offense that isn't as deep as we are. Like, is he gonna take touches away from KJ Osborne? Maybe he might be our wide receiver 3 come a few weeks, but still he's not gonna have the connection with Kirk that KJ does. He's not gonna have the connection with definitely not gonna have the connection with Kirk that Adam does. And are we gonna scheme him some plays? 1 or 2, yeah, but is he gonna get schemed more than Jalen Reagor even? Probably not. So I don't think there's a chance we make this trade. And given the price that's probably going to be put on him, I don't want us to make this trade. Next one.
Oh,
Next one is the biggest name among Vikings Twitter, coming off an ACL injury, free agent Odell Beckham Jr. Joe, already know your thoughts on that. I'm going to let you get to it. Real quick, do you know the estimate of how much it's going to take to get Odell? Like how much money?
I was listening to Rappaport earlier this week, and he said, I'll just say this. The contract that, like, I hear Vikings fans, oh, he'll take the minimum deal, or he'll take a couple $1,000,000, or even the DJ Chark deal. No, he will not. If he was going to take that, Rappaport didn't give firm numbers, but I pretty much hinted that a deal around $6-7 million on a 1 year deal. And OBJ said no because he wants to be back with the Rams. He signed with them last year. He had other opportunities. He chose the Rams. The Rams doctor performed his surgery. He has a good relationship with Stafford and McVay and the rest of that offense. He wants to be there. LA is a great place to live, especially when you're someone like Odell. He was looking at the Michael Gallup deal. That's what Rappaport hinted at. Now, he's going to be 30 years old by the time he comes back to return next month. So 5 years might be a little bit much, but I would say probably a 3 year deal in the 10 to 12 million a year range. So that's serious commitment and not placeholder years. Probably 20 million of that fully guaranteed. And that's a serious contract, which I don't know how comfortable I would feel giving.
I like the. I mean, I've been pretty not vocal, but with people saying they don't want Odell, I don't really understand that. Because he brings an element of this onto this offense that we just don't have, which is an explosive play that defenses have to keep an eye on. It doesn't matter if, honestly, to me, it doesn't matter if Odell makes an explosive play or not, because defenses have to account for it, and that does dividends for Adam Thielen and Jefferson. Even though Jefferson's still going to get the same amount of attention he does, there's just that sliver of attention that has to be put on Odell for a go route or a corner route, that deep play. So I'm not as opposed to it as other people, but contractually, money-wise, is it the right decision?
No.
I don't think Kwesi is as quick to just jump on a contract on a player like that because they are a player of that caliber. I think he's going to dissect it and see, is this going to be plus value for our future? Especially since we're 5-1 right now. The offense hasn't even clicked yet. I don't think we need Odell. It's a matter of does Odell take this team to another level? He could. If Kwesi thinks so, then go get him. But it all depends on what Kwesi thinks.
Yeah, and you got to think 30 years old, second ACL surgery. Not saying he'll never return to form, but maybe Vikings fans would still remember that Adrian Peterson season from 10 years ago now, where he was superhuman like 8 months after an ACL surgery. That's not how it normally works. And ACL surgeries aren't, a career wrecker. But definitely 8 months after getting that surgery, I don't think Odell is going to be the guy that we saw in the Super Bowl. And he probably won't. If he ever does reach that form again, it probably wouldn't be until next season after getting his legs under him and really getting back into it. It just doesn't make sense if he's looking for that contract that it sounds like he is and that he's sticking to his guns about, because the Rams have offered him, I think, the deal that Vikings Twitter is convincing themselves that he would take. So you're going to have to really bid him up to in order to really bring him in. So I don't think that's an option.
I guess the other option that has been floating around, the person you're more fond of for maybe certain reasons, your location, perhaps, Kendrick Bourne. Your thoughts?
Yeah, if you just want to go by the numbers, let me see how many games each player played so I can get my facts and figures right.
While you're doing that,
So, okay,
it would be a trade, correct?
Yes.
All
So
right,
in
and it would cost a fifth rounder, sixth.
probably because knowing Bill Belichick, the thing about him is when a player's in his doghouse and like he's ready to move on, he will take a return that you're like, what the hell is that? You saw it this
Shaq
offseason with
Mason.
Shaq Mason. But in years past, Jamie Collins, and this is not current Jamie Collins, this is prime 26-year-old Jamie Collins, who has been an all-pro linebacker, who they're just ready to move on from mid-season, and they trade him away for like a fifth-round pick. When they give him away for essentially less than they would have received as a comp pick, just because they're done with him for whatever reason. So OBJ between regular season and playoffs played 18 games. And in those 18 games last year, OBJ put up 825 yards, 65 catches, 7 touchdowns for a PFF grade of 75. Kendrick Bourne, in his season last year, he played, I believe it was same amount of games, 18 games, all the regular season games in the playoffs. He had 62 catches, so 3 fewer catches for 877 yards. So that's like 50 more yards. And he had 7 touchdowns as well. So he was essentially the same player last year as OBJ. And his PFF grade, for those who like PFF, is 78. He played a very similar role, playing about 65% of the time on the outside, 35% of the slot. So he was movable. He's actually taller than you would think. He's 6'1", 190, but kind of similar build to OBJ. And I think that, and again, he's 27 years old. If you could get him in, he has a cap hit of $5 million this year and only $5.5 million next year, which is an absolute bargain for someone I view to be an excellent number 3 and a borderline number 2 receiver. So I think that if Bill Belichick's willing to part with him for a 5th-round pick, you say thank you. You bring him into the fold, and he kind of adds that deep play while also being able to be a possession receiver. He's kind of a do-it-all type guy. I think he makes a ton of sense.
Bring us back down to earth. So Elijah Moore, Kendrick Bourne is a different receiver, different situation than Elijah Moore. But you do also have to consider, will this player beat out KJ Osborne? I don't know enough about Kendrick Bourne to tell you that KJ's better. Joe will tell you Kendrick Bourne is better. We've had this conversation off camera, but I'm just going to relay the conversation. If I'm going to go off Joe's word, Kendrick Bourne is better. But I can't imagine Kendrick Bourne is levels above KJ Osborne, right? So we have to think it's going to take him a week to even adapt to the offense. His first game here, which at the earliest will be the Arizona game, the trade's going to happen next week if it were to happen, meaning he's not going to have enough time to, get implemented into the offense. So he'll probably get 10 snaps, probably less than Rager, maybe the exact same as Rager, who's our wide receiver 4. The next week you get him 20 snaps. But he's not taking KJ's spot that much. It's those 4 wide receiver sets. He maybe subs with KJ a little bit, but KJ's still cemented in that wide receiver 3. If KJ starts, or if Kendrick Bourne starts to perform, then by that Bills game, maybe him and KJ are sharing the same amount of snaps. And then the Cowboys game, probably the exact same. And then that Patriots game is when Kendrick Bourne, and this is only if Kendrick Bourne is actually playing to the level that, Joe, you're saying he's playing at. That's when he'll overtake KJ as wide receiver 3. That's week 12. That's a 5-week implementation process. And even then, him and KJ are splitting snaps still. Maybe Bourne's getting 60% and KJ's getting 40%. But is Kendrick Bourne still on a rookie deal?
No, but he's essentially on one. Because he signed a contract. Patriots just completely swindled him. Because he's making $5 million and $5 million the next 2 years. So,
all right, and how much is KJ making?
KJ's making like pennies. But either way, it's not mutually exclusive. Well, here's what I'll just say. Then say you don't want a receiver, because any receiver that you could talk yourself into, that you're going to have the same argument. Even OBJ, because honestly, at this point, I don't know if OBJ, fresh off surgery, 8 months off surgery, at 30 years old is going to come in and be better than Kendrick Bourne or KJ
But
Osborne or
but
Adam
but the thing
Thielen.
is Kendrick Bourne going to come in and make an impact? I don't know how much I
I
can like. Maybe come playoff time, which is probably the most important. But is it an impact that KJ Osborne can't make? That's
Well,
my
then
thing.
you don't, because then there's no receiver that
But
is
can
that you can get that would make the difference that you're talking about. There, he's just
but
not there.
Odell will.
No, he will.
Odell
No, he will not. No.
teams will respect it. See, but the difference is teams aren't just all right, guys. We got to watch Kendrick Bourne over here in the slot. That's not happening. If Odell's
Well,
on the field
Evo, you want to
week
hear something?
14, then teams are
Evo,
like, hey, we have to keep this safety over the top because Odell can burn us at any time.
hey, 6 games last year. 6 games. Kendrick Bourne had a 40-yard reception, at least one 40-yard reception. 6 games, he went for
But
40 yards.
with what other receivers though?
Oh, I'm talking about one reception for 40 yards. I'm not talking
I
about
know,
40
but
yards in a game.
who else was there to throw to last year?
Okay, but what does that have to do with being a deep threat? Well, because that would actually lead him, because he actually didn't get much targets. Let me see where he ranked in targets. He wasn't super high on the Patriots roster in targets. He was a deep threat. So that's because he only would get his high for targets last year was 8. He got that twice. Then it was 6, 6, 5, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. So he was averaging probably about 4 or 5 targets a game, but he would get a 30, 40-yard reception most games. And
I
that's kind of what he does. So
see,
the fact
but
that there weren't good receivers makes it harder for him actually to break off one for 40 yards.
and I'm not going to die on the hill that we shouldn't get Kendrick Bourne because if we get him, then I'm honestly not like I'm not going to care. As long as we don't give up a fourth, because if we give up a fifth or a sixth, I won't care. Especially if it's a 2024 fifth, if we even have that. I don't know if we do. Um, I'm not going to care really. It's just is the return on investment going to
Much better
be
than Odell Beckham. Much better than giving Odell Beckham $25 million
or
guaranteed.
but then if we're not going to give Odell Beckham 25 guaranteed,
Then
that's
he's not
just
going to
not going to
come.
happen.
Then he's not going to
Oh,
come.
okay, then don't come. Kwesi isn't stupid enough to give a 30-year-old player coming off his second ACL injury, $25 million to be a wide receiver 3. It's not
Okay.
happening.
Okay.
So then we can just rule him out, which
Yes.
is what we've basically done. But
Yeah. But
is
my point is, then you
but the
don't want a
argument right here,
receiver.
but the argument now is Kendrick Bourne a better option than OBJ because return on investment wise he is, but is he worth it for your team? And that's a
Then you don't
question
want a
mark.
receiver. Then just take away Kendrick Bourne. Is any realistic receiver that could be on the move? I know this guy's different, but Chase Claypool's available. He's younger and he has more term on his deal. Actually, no, he doesn't because he was taken in JJ's draft, so only has this year and next. So it's Chase Claypool who would probably go for more. Any receiver, even Elijah Moore, who's going to go for way more. Funny enough, Elijah Moore. Are any of these guys who are realistically available and making and can fit under your salary cap through a reasonable mechanism worth targeting? Or is no, we're not going to go after a receiver. We're happy with our receiver room because that's the ultimate question. It's if you're scoffing, I'm not saying you are, but a lot of people here scoffing at Kendrick Bourne. He's not going to make a difference. He's KJ Osborne, whatever. We don't need that. Well, then say sorry. We don't need a receiver. Fine. Then you can say that. Go target something else. I'm not opposed. You have limited resources. You can't just go, shop and get whatever you want. You have to be strategic. But if you want a receiver, I think that people are attracted to the shiny name, Odell Beckham. No. If you can get Kendrick Bourne for a 5th-round pick and have him under team control for pennies relatively next year, you do that.
I mean, okay, then I'll say we don't need a receiver.
Okay.
But we do need a receiver, but I don't. The options on the market is what we don't need. We
It's
need
not
a
even
receiver, but it's the options we don't need.
Oh, well,
See,
what caliber are you talking, though? Are you talking about like a Chris Godwin level receiver across from JJ?
No. I'm talking about a receiver that can come and make an impact, and I don't have to worry about them. There's no one on the market that fills the need that we like. That would be the return on investment that we're getting. So in that
a great
case,
return on investment.
in that case, with the options on the market, yes, technically we don't need a receiver given the options. But if there's
But,
receivers that could come available that I would
like, who's a guy that you would be willing to trade a second round pick and move?
no, I'm not trading a second round pick for
Okay,
anyone.
then you're not. Then there's no guy that like you're talking about. Well,
Well, obviously
if T Higgins
if T
were to
Higgins came on the
become
market, I'm
available,
giving up a second round pick.
yeah,
Like if T
yeah,
Higgins
T
comes on the
Higgins on
market.
his rookie deal was available. Yeah,
Well,
but I
obviously,
mean,
but you're bringing up people that just aren't realistic.
yeah, well, exactly. And you, I mean, I'm putting a name to that kind of nebulous idea of the player, but that's kind of what you're talking about. Because, like, who is a clear cut, like, above average number two receiver that you wouldn't have to give up a second round pick for, and you wouldn't have to pay a lot of money? Like, they're not, those guys don't grow on trees because they're on rookie deals, and teams are going to be like, piss off. Why would I trade them?
I'm trying to think. There's guys, trust me, just
I mean, Kendrick Bourne, if you could get Kendrick Bourne for a fifth round pick, I would be running. And he adds a deep threat. He put
and
up.
I'm not against it. I want to make that very clear. I'm not against it. I am very in the middle. I'm just playing devil's advocate since Joe right here is just because
Listen, I love.
there are not cons, but there are things to watch out for. Just like there are things to watch out for on the positive end. It's a very gray
And
area.
it's a fifth round pick for a guy who's had multiple 700-800 yard seasons, has is a deep threat, and only makes $5 million a year.
Well, now
So
we're kind of talking in circles because if I was going to
yeah,
argue, I'd say this guy is going to be a wide receiver 3 for if that on this team. So,
well,
and
how about other
we haven't
guys?
even discussed connection with Kirk. I there's one more. We're running
Yeah,
very long into this. There's one other person that came on the market today. I'll try and find the report.
Michael
Uh,
Gesicki,
Mike
Rudy King.
Gesicki.
He's not an option. I promise you, he is not an option. That's not worth talking about. And I literally laugh in my like. I'm sorry, I laugh at you because you have no idea about how any of this works. Mike Gesicki is on a
Why are you
franchise
laughing at
tag.
me?
Mike Gesicki's on a franchise tag. He's making close to $11 million. He's making over $10 million. You can make that money work. You could. You're not going to go and restructure and add more dead money to your books. And you're going to have to trade at least a third rounder because that's what he's going to be worth in the comp pick. You're going to trade a third round pick and restructure a lot of your money and add more dead money when you're already tied up against it for a guy who's essentially that third receiver. Like, I know he's a tight end. He is a receiver. Like, he is a big slot. And people have position distinctions and height fool you. Yeah, he might be a better red zone option because he is 6'6". But let me go here. He is lined up in the slot 60% of the time, lined out wide 16.5% of the time. He is lined up as an inline tight end this year, and it's coincidingly his least effective year, unless he's against the Vikings, because the Vikings make a lot of players look good in the receiving game, in the middle of the field especially. But in general, for his career, he lines up as an actual tight end less than 20% of the time. He is a receiver. He is just a very big receiver who is called a tight end, which he should not be, because that's not the position he plays. He's just conceptually, people just see 6'6", 250 and think tight end, but he's a slot who plays outside.
Does he
He plays
block?
outside. No, he
Does he
doesn't.
block?
He
Then I
plays
don't.
he plays outside as a X receiver outside more often than he plays inline.
Yeah,
That's not a tight end. That's a receiver. He just is big.
I mean, contractually, the amount of effort it's going to take to get him here, and then the amount of like there's going to be consequences later on for a guy who I didn't know I didn't know that before, but now I'm going to use it in my argument. For a
And
guy
before that,
who doesn't even play tight end. I mean, Irv doesn't play much tight end either, but
oh, he plays way more than.
yeah, I mean, he does too. And then Johnny, you have two serviceable guys. Tight end isn't the biggest need because Kirk is always going to find a way to get it to him. And I think a blocking tight end is more of a necessity for this Vikings offense than an uber receiving
And
tight
before
end.
that game against the Vikings, because again, if you're a fan of a team, you're probably not. You might watch Red Zone or check highlights. But before, he had his best game by far against the Vikings: 6 catches, 69 nice yards, 2 touchdowns. But before that, he had 1 reception for 1 yard, 4 receptions for 41, his second best game, and a touchdown. 1 reception for 6, 2 receptions for 23, 1 reception for 30 yards. Like
I
he
don't know
had
if you
9 catches
remember,
in 5 games.
I don't know if you remember, but we were in a Dolphin space. You might
Oh,
have
they
come in
hated him.
after,
Yeah.
and
No,
they
they
were
hated
just
him.
talking down on him for a good 30 minutes. They had a very long conversation about how little they liked Mike Gesicki.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, with the effort that it's going to take to get him, and we haven't even mentioned what you'd have to give up for him, because it's probably like a 4th-round pick.
No, third, because you
A
got to
third
think
is crazy.
he's gonna.
A fourth is realistically what he's gonna.
Well, then why would they trade him unless like they just want to get rid of him? Because you got to think Tyler Conklin, after 1 season, and statistically he's going to end up being right around the same as Gesicki. After 1 season, after being a no-name guy, got like 25 million. CJ Uzama, who no one really knew of before that Super Bowl run, got like $30 million. Gesicki, who has multiple 800-yard seasons under his belt, is still at the end of the year going to put up some numbers. You can reasonably talk yourself into Miami being a bad schematic fit. Could easily get $50-60 million. I mean, Jonnu Smith, who had nowhere near the track record of success, got like $50-60 million. And a $50-60 million free agent gives you a 3rd-round comp pick. He's going to get it. Like Miami's going to get that. So unless they just think he's a bad fit, or maybe you could give them a player, which you don't have, they're going to say, oh, your tight ends are Johnny Munt, because you're not going to give up Irv. You're going to go, oh, Johnny Munt? No. Like, just doesn't make sense. Yeah, Mike Gesicki's not happening. And he's not a tight end. Like, this is what people need to, like, start to understand football a little bit more, not just see players as, like, size.
While I'm creating the banners for our next segment, is there anybody else on the market that you'd like to even see, or that you're even interested in at other
Yeah.
positions? Because in the replies to a lot of these tweets about Odell and what have you, it's people saying, "Oh, I'd much rather spend that on the defensive end." But my thing is, are there defensive players of the caliber of Odell Beckham, of Mike Gesicki, even of Kendrick Bourne that are even available? I don't know. How about you
Well, you don't
enlighten
need
me?
that. I don't even think about that. I think about, are there guys who can get 20+ snaps a game on this team and provide value? That's kind of how I look at it. And I would treat this almost like the draft. I would not want to bring in a guy who I would need to clear out more than $4 million of space for this year for. And then you spread it out throughout different contracts, whatever. There's mechanisms to do it, but I don't want to move more money, more than about $4 or $5 million into, future deals. I like Matt Ioannidis a lot in Carolina. He was good in Washington. He's a guy who's a starter. Good in the run game, good in pass rush. He's younger than I thought. He's only like 27, 28 years old. He signed a 1-year deal in Carolina, so he's a rental. You give up a 6th-round pick for him. And I think he's better than Jonathan Bullard, Ross Blacklock. And again, he's only $1 million. So he's vet minimum for a 6th-round pick. I think that's the kind of guy you look at. I'll have to look through teams, get a more definitive list of who's selling. But players like that, guys who aren't big names, but they can fill a role and add more depth, because this defensive front, not the edges, but like down linemen, especially defensive ends, I think could use some more juice. But yeah, like I said, treat it like the 5th, 6th round of a draft. You take the best player available and a guy that you think has the best chance to contribute. And and again, you're working with limited resources, because that's how the 5th, 6th round is. That's kind of the caliber of player you're going to trade for. That's the most likely outcome.
But J.C. Horn
and Derek Brown.
Yeah, but what about Jeremy Chin
and DJ Moore?
God, I hate it. I hate it.
It's just like, you are not of like a cognitive level to speak to me.
There were people. I mean, a lot of it's memes now about it. There were seriously people going, but why don't the Vikings trade for J.C. Horn? I don't think it's about the Vikings, because I think the Vikings would jump at the opportunity to trade a 2nd-round pick for J.C. Horn. Why would the Vikings trade for him? Why would the Panthers trade him?
Yeah, a cost control player with 3 more years of team control, who was the 9th overall pick and showing a lot of promise. Yeah,
But you also you forget they're going into a rebuild, and people are using they're going into a rebuild for why they trade him. Yes, let's trade our very promising, low cost 9th pick from last year. Let's trade him while going into a rebuild because that makes so much sense. Same with
He's only
Jeremy Chin.
21 years. He's only 21 years old. 8th pick.
No, but he helps them win games, so trade him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, these people are just absolutely ridiculous. But wow, we've gone 40 minutes on this, but that was a good conversation. I think that's what the fans need to hear. Talk some sense into them
and some argument.
Yeah.
But now we get into, we mentioned we're going to change it up. So instead of just rattling off our picks off the top of our brain, we've made our picks. We've made our picks already. We've picked the 4 best or the 4 most interesting games to talk about, or games that we want to talk about, and then we're going to go over those. Maybe argue a bit, just put some points on it, move on, and then we're going to show our game picks for the week so that y'all aren't going completely without them, and you'll post it on Twitter after.
Yeah.
Roads, right? All right. And just put the notes on that, and then we'll leave. No boomers today. We'll get back to that next time.
Yeah. Good vibes only. Good vibes only.
Yeah. To start
5 and 1.
Joe. This is Joe's. I'm gonna let Joe go off on this because this is his game. Broncos versus Jets in Denver. Broncos 2-4, Jets 4-2. I'm sure you're going to talk about the importance of this, so I'll just stop now.
This is a very fascinating matchup. Because I think Evo is the only one. I'll give Evo his props. He had very bad picks in some cases, Raiders, Saints, about some of his teams, but he was right on the money with Denver. And I think other than Evo, I don't see many people who not only would have seen Denver going 2-4 to start the year, but being as pathetic as they've been, especially on offense. I still find it hard to believe that they'll be this bad. And then the Jets, conversely, were a team that I think at the high end people saw winning 6, maybe 7 games at absolute best. Now they're 4-2, and they've beaten Miami, who's still a legit team. Baltimore Ravens, legit team. No, they lost to the Ravens. I was thinking the Giants. They beat the Packers, though. And it's just a very interesting scenario because if Denver loses this game, they're done. They are not making the playoffs. They already have 5 losses, and they're obviously not winning the division. They already have tie-breaking loss. So against the Rams, this would be another tiebreaker loss against the Jets, who would be 5-2. So their season's completely over. No chance of the playoffs if they lose this. And then the Jets, this puts them in kind of the catbird seat to really make the playoffs, not just be a nice story, because you're 5-2 and Denver's still a tough place to play. This will tell me a lot about the Jets and how good they can be. So this is Denver's season on life support, and this is the Jets ready to kind of almost like if you want to kind of look at like you're a horse jockey, jockeying for a position. This is them ready to eliminate and completely remove one of the teams that are in their way of making the playoffs.
And then also 5-2 puts you in a very good no matter how much this team might be fraudulent, which I haven't come to a conclusion on that, gives you a very good opportunity at the playoffs. Prediction wise, Joe, let me find it. Joe had the Broncos winning 27-21. I think it's bold of you to think the Broncos were going to put up 27 points, and I actually did the opposite. I have the Jets winning in a shutout 16-0. That's a touchdown and 3 field goals.
Or that's
versus nothing.
2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion.
That's not going to happen.
2 touchdowns.
But when I was predicting
no Russ safety. No Russ safety.
No, but when I was predicting this, I was thinking touchdown, 3 field goals. So that's the game script. They're going to start off with a field goal, another field goal to be 6-0 going to the half. They come out, they score a touchdown because I think the Broncos get the ball first. They come out of the half with a touchdown to Elijah Moore, coincidentally. and then nothing happens, and then 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Doesn't matter. The Broncos are holding on for dear life. The Jets kicker hits like a 55-yard field goal, and then it's just wraps.
Wow.
Because
I'm gonna
The
say I'm gonna go
Broncos
back to
defense
this and see.
the Broncos defense is probably top five. When I was so I'm a very known Broncos hater, mainly because of Russell Wilson, but also previous years they've been overrated as well as this high potential team. Um, when I was predicting their schedule, I let me see what I had them going throughout this, because I have it right here. I wasn't expecting their offense to be this bad. Actually, I thought their offense would be the better part of their team. I had them going. Actually, I'm very smart. I had them going 5-1. They beat the Texans. Who else did they beat? The Niners. See, yeah, they beat the
Yeah.
Niners. Yeah, I have them winning. I had this winning. I can't speak. I had them winning this game prior to the season, but now I have them winning. Their defense is very good. I did not expect that. Their offense is probably the worst offense in the league to this point. Can you disagree with that?
They're pretty dang bad.
They're really bad, and Russell Wilson's awful bottom 10 quarterback. Their weapons aren't as good as people make them out to be. Jerry Jeudy has no potential. Cortland Sutton is cool.
No potential. No potential.
Cortland Sutton's cool. And then Javonte is what killed their season. Javonte was the only shining light on their offense, a guy who could take a step up and be an elite part of, and something they could really just kind of like, he can be their driving force. And it would open up play action, and it would just open up the offense. He's gone and out. So they have no hope. They lose this game, lose to the Jags going to the bye week, and then they're done.
Poor Broncos.
They're
Wow.
not poor Broncos.
Wow, this is crazy. KJ Hamler only has 4 catches this entire year. Wow. I know he wasn't performing, but that's crazy.
I honestly think Tim Patrick going out was big for their season. Tim Patrick, I had a breakout candidate. Not anymore. Do you have any other thoughts on this game?
No, this is kind of a game where I have no idea how it's really going to go. I'm still leaning Denver. Maybe this is my kind of stuck in my ways, kind of going with the team that I just thought would be like so much better than the Jets, like going with my preseason instinct. But it's going to tell me a lot. This will kind of confirm like Denver's done. Jets are, more or less definitely strongly a playoff contender.
What time is this game?
I think it's a 1 o'clock game.
It's a 3 o'clock game on CBS. Denver's favored, actually, which is extremely disrespectful.
Dude, Denver's one of those places just like Miami. It's a very for a different reason, but it's a very tough place to play. Just for the conditions.
So I know you have this as a really important game. Will you be watching it though? Can you stomach that?
Honestly, I don't even know if I'm gonna be watching that much football this week, to be honest. It's Sunday. I've been super busy on weekends. It's fall in New England. It's gonna be, we only have so many, 60-degree days left. I might just enjoy my Sunday, see family, maybe go apple picking. So I'll keep an eye on it, but I don't know if I'm gonna be glued to my couch. I'm just gonna kind of enjoy a stress-free Sunday.
Okay, so if you want to meet Joe Spinoza this weekend, go to your local apple orchard if you're in Boston.
No, there's lots of them.
So go to the one you think Joe Spinoza would go to.
Take a guess.
Next game is, if you're watching this far into the episode, it's already occurred, but we kind of have to give our thoughts on this, seeing as how Cardinals are our next opponent, the Vikings. Jameis Winston is still out. Andy Dalton plays. Michael Thomas out. What did you predict this game?
I have Arizona 23-19, and you're pretty much on the board. I have, score difference, but you have New Orleans. Pretty much
New Orleans 23-16. We both have it going under. I really have no Marquise Brown out. I think the only storyline of this game is D-Hop's return against Marshawn Lattimore. That's going to be a pretty interesting matchup to to look for. But other than that, I could care less about this game. Maybe it has playoff implications if one of these teams want to come back, but
I care more about it just from a Vikings perspective because that the Cardinals are the team the Vikings are playing next. They're on a short week, Arizona. So, and these Thursday night games have all been just terrible. But see how D Hop's fresh. So see how much of a focal point they make D Hop, especially with Hollywood Brown out. It's kind of going to force their hand. But is he going to get double-digit targets? Is he going to be that primary receiver? Or is it just going to be they're going to try to ease him in? Another thing to look at is they lost Justin Pugh, their starting right guard, or one of their starting guards. I forget right or left, but he's a solid player. And Rodney Hudson is out. I'm not sure if he'll be back next week for the Vikings game. They're going to have, obviously, another 10 days. But their interior offensive line hasn't been good. The Saints have a very good defensive line. We saw that against, I would still say at the end of the day, an average offensive line in Minnesota. So kind of seeing what does Cam Jordan, Davenport, Tuttle, all those guys that they have in New Orleans, how do they look against the Cardinals' injured offensive line? So I guess that's kind of the two things. But yeah, I don't know. I find it a somewhat interesting game. Like this slate is not great overall. So just kind of want to see what. Oh, Evo, you are or not?
I was muted.
Yeah.
I have no thoughts about this game. There is one game that is probably going to be chalked up to be the like this is probably going to be America's game of the week if it's on Fox. It's not on Fox because it's the Chiefs versus the Niners, who I while predicting these games, I observed something which has probably already been brought up. Do the Chiefs ever play at 12? They never do. I swear. They've played it. They've played at 3 and on prime time every game this season, and it's always Tony Romo and Nance every single time. The Chiefs never play on Fox. I think that's an AFC thing, right?
Yeah, they're the new Patriots. And granted, the Patriots, and I'm curious. I'll look at the Chiefs' schedule, but the Patriots obviously were the preeminent team in the AFC, and they would play the headliner game on CBS, kind of like the headliner game in the NFC is played on Fox. So that makes sense. Let me see if that's just kind of an early season thing. Okay, then they got their bye week. Okay, they had one game. They played Indy at 1:00. Their loss. Then they have a total of at the end of the year they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So their final 4 games are at 1:00. But other than that, 8 on Sunday Night Football. They have 3 games in a row where they're that 4:00 window game on CBS, and then they have another Sunday night game against the Broncos, which might be flexed by that time because that's flexing season. And if Denver loses this game, they're going to have to win out in order to be 7-5 by the time that matchup rolls around to be worth playing on Sunday Night Football. How are the Niners injury wise? Is Bosa gonna play? I know their offensive line is still pretty hurt.
I don't know. I think Trent Williams is out for the season, correct?
I don't know if he's out for the season, but he's out for at least the foreseeable future. He might come back final month of the year. Yeah, Bosa, Ward are listed as questionable. McGlinchey, a lot of these guys are listed as questionable, but I know that Williams is going to be out. So
I'm looking up their injury report right now.
Yeah,
it's as recent as an hour ago. So Charvarius Ward and Eric Armstead were out of practice today. McGlinchey and Ebukam were limited during practice today. I don't know. Let's see what we predicted. I predicted San Francisco 27-26. you predicted Kansas City 35-24. This seems like a game where it seems like a Travis Kelce game. Travis Kelce is like the only contributor on that offense, which I mean, I guess every game is a Travis Kelce game. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to struggle to get going at first, and the Niners are going to kind of jump out to an early lead. But with Jimmy Garoppolo, a lead is never safe. And I think the Chiefs, being the Chiefs, even against that like intimidating like elite defense, they start to get it going. But eventually can't get it done. I think Jimmy Garoppolo leads a 30-yard game-winning field goal drive. Yeah. Game script. If you need a game script for any game, come to me. I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen.
Okay, Tony Romo.
The Chiefs are very used to Tony Romo, so.
Yeah. Well,
thoughts?
No, it's good. I'm interested in this game. Again, I was shocked that Atlanta actually won against San Fran.
Shout out Karan.
Yeah, that's what I have to say. They already surpassed my win total. I had Atlanta at 2. They're already at 3. I mean, who would have thought that Atlanta would have the same amount of wins as
K-Dog did.
Yeah, not as Tampa Bay 6 weeks into the year. And honestly, you look at some of their losses, like they could have. I think
Atlanta should be 4-2, and the Bucs should be 2-4 right now.
I mean, if you want to go, they barely lost that week 1 game to New Orleans, and you could argue they could be 5-1 because they lost by 1 point against New Orleans, 4 points against the Rams, and 6 points against the Bucs.
and against New Orleans and the Rams, I think they were up by a considerable. No, they were down.
No, they were never up against the Rams.
They were. Yeah, sorry, I got the comebacks mixed up. They were up like what 20 something to something against the Saints, and it wasn't until the fourth quarter where they just crumbled against the Rams. They were down 28-3 and almost made a miraculous comeback. They had a game-winning drive opportunity who got shut down.
Yeah.
So this team, honestly, and I was talking to Mike Castellino about this. This is a team that could sneak into the playoffs. Them and Seattle are both two teams that need to. I think eventually the Packers and Bucks get it together. Bucks probably win that division. Packers probably take that final, what looks like the 7th seed. That's already looks like the only one that's up for grabs because the Cowboys and Giants seem to have those other two locked up. But I mean, Seattle, Atlanta, Green Bay, those seem to be the 3 teams vying for that 7th seed.
Yeah, and it's still really early. I'm looking at remaining schedule. Atlanta has the easiest one remaining, so
looking good.
The hardest.
And there was a TikTok I saw. The TikTok I saw, and they are better than every. I think they play a tough team this week, and then after that, it's like they should be favored to win every other game for a good while.
Who? Atlanta?
Yeah, I think I saw a TikTok about it. I'm gonna.
And then here I was picking them to win 2 games.
Well, but okay, they are being coached into wins. Arthur Smith is doing great.
Yeah, they have Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know. They have the Panthers. That should be an easy one, but Chargers. Well,
Chargers is tough, but then you have Panthers again. You should win that. Chicago, you should win that. Washington, you should win that. Pittsburgh, as it stands right now, you should win that. Saints, that's not a tough game. It looks like Atlanta's better than the Saints right now, but that could get tough. Then you have the Ravens, probably going to lose that, but who knows? I mean, and then you have the Cardinals. I think they're probably on the same level, to be honest. And then
I can't go that far.
And then you have Tampa, which should be a loss.
Oh my
God!
God!
They have a very realistic shot at the playoffs, which I don't think anyone would have thought 6 weeks into the season.
Oh my God! Like no boomers this week, but I just got this guy who has like 2 followers. As 3rd rounder for Gesicki isn't bad. What the hell? Oh my God!
All right, let's move on to a game I'm very interested in: the Cowboys versus the Lions.
All you.
#OnePride versus America's team. in Detroit? No, in Dallas. Dallas coming off not an embarrassing loss, but a loss to the Eagles. Um, number one defense in the league versus the number one offense in the league. I you saw the Lions against a good defense in New England, um, a good scheme defense, and people that can make plays got shut out. I think it's going to be very similar. I think the Cowboys with Dak coming back against that putrid Lions defense. Um, I'm not a big believer in Dak or these comeback games, but I think this is just set up for Dak, with all the Cooper Rush stuff. Dak's going to come in, make a statement. I don't think that statement's going to last very long, but he's going to make a statement. CD, Zeke, I think they're just going to be firing on all cylinders, the Cowboys. Let's see what I predicted them. Where are we? Dallas. I predicted 35-13 in a 49-point spread game. Joe predicted 28-24, kind of a closer game. I don't know. I don't think this Lions defense is going to be able to stop the Dallas offense with something to prove, it seems like. And the Lions are not a good football team. They're not coached very well either. And that offense, it seemed like a 3-week wonder against the best defense in the league to this point. Jared Goff, can he withstand pressure? That's been the thing that he has been worst at in his career. And
Yes.
yeah, sure, Amon-Ra's coming back. They're coming off a bye where they're rejuvenated, and Lions fans are going to be quick to tell you that this is a trap game for the Cowboys. No, Cowboys are going to beat down the Lions.
They have, I would say, if not the best top 3 line in football. So I know like Dallas still going to get pressure, but they have a good line. I still have Dallas winning, but I'm not gonna say that one pride's gonna get rolled over like they did against New England. I think that they have too much pride to let that. All they have is one pride. That's it. So I think they're gonna be respectable losers. They're gonna go back to being the respectable losers they've been.
Hashtag one win will stand after this week. I guess I'll share the screen. I hope I'm not. See, actually, can you share, because I can't download the picture and half of our messages are shown up behind it and it withholds some important information. So
I don't have like the actual picture because like I'm on 2 monitors, so like it'll share like the entire. I think. Hold on. Well, you're gonna see Excel at the
here.
very least.
I can save the image. I got it.
Oh.
Save. Okay. And then we open. Okay. This is way harder than it should be.
Hold on. Let me see.
Actually, let me see. Actually, let me just scroll down. All right. If people are trying hard enough to see it, they deserve to see it.
Yeah, we're gonna post it. We're gonna post it on our account.
I'll
do that now.
Share screen. Chrome. Actually, yeah. Chrome tab. Share. All right.
I'm posting it right now.
Can you see well enough? Does this look good? Do you see anything that's problematic?
Oh, yeah. You can see the messages a little bit.
But anything that's problematic there?
No, not really.
Okay. Looking at yours, nothing completely out of the ordinary. Yeah, I don't really have any problems with yours. Let me see who all you picked. We both picked Jacksonville over the Giants. My upset of the week might be Atlanta.
Which
or
I see. It's weird that I see messages up there because we don't have many actual written messages.
Here, go off on a tangent. I need to make a call.
All right. Well, I'm just putting out that we are back this week. Here are the picks. Stay tuned for an episode dropping tomorrow. Boom. Yes, thank you all for being here at Eyes on the NFL. Evo is taking a phone call. And wow, this has been over an hour of fun, an hour of football talk. I'm gonna tell Evo that please subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications. Follow us on Twitter at EvoKnowsAll31 and at RealJoeSpinoza, along with our channel's Twitter account, Eyes on the NFL, for all the best clips. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. I love trade season. Goes back to my favorite sport, which still is baseball. The Red Sox had a down year. This season was kind of weird, I guess. But my sports love started with baseball, trades, acquisitions. That's what I love. I love playing around with the cap and doing all those different things. So I'll let you know if a player is reasonable to acquire, if he's worth it, what the going rate is. If you just want to joke around, I get it. That's what a lot of people like to do. They like to meme. They like to have fun. I don't care about the cap. I just want to watch fun players. Then fine, joke around. Evo, I already read the scroll at the bottom. So unless you want to do it again.
No, you got it, man.
Yeah, we did it.
Are we done?
I think we're done.
I apologize. This always seems to go off the rails a little bit at the end. So I apologize. I did have to take a call. This
is what makes it real. It's kind of like The Office. You get like those outtakes. This is Eyes on the NFL outtakes.
And I mean, let's be real. Did anyone do you think anyone watched this far?
Probably not.
We'll get there. We'll get there at some point.
No, this is going to be like the meat that they want to get to. They want to see the outtakes.
If you have watched this far, comment. What should they comment, Joe?
It's gonna have to be something unique to get them. Comment outtake. Comment outtake.
Comment outtake.
Yeah. To let us know you a real one.
But I guess I should cue the music.
Yeah.
Let's just turn on the music. Actually, I have to start it from the beginning. There we go. Thank you again for watching, everyone. Our first show back, me and Joe are going to try and stay a lot more consistent as the music plays. Joe, any closing words or thoughts, quotes maybe?
No. Stress-free week. No Vikings football to give me a heart attack.
Sounds good. No Vikings football this week. We're going to be back next week for a preview, I hope.
Hopefully.
If all works out.
I might be actually on the road, so...
Y'all have a good one. Peace out.